8:30.
Recording in progress.
8:30 a.m. on Thursday, January 8th. And call the Utility Policy Committee meeting to order.
Speak up, Libby.
Next item on the agenda is to set the agenda. We'll add a quick discussion on summary of the affordability program in with the 2026 water rates.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with the modification of adding the information on the affordability program.
Support.
There's a motion by Member Hafner, second by Member Anderson to set the agenda with adding the affordability. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Introductions and guests. Welcome everyone this morning. I think we are all familiar with each other today, so I'm going to continue. Next item is acceptance of the November 13th, 2025 draft minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept as presented.
Support.
Motion by Member Crum, second by Member Wheat to accept the minutes as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Any public comment this morning, either in person or online? If online, please raise your hand. I should also mention welcome everyone who's attending virtually this morning. We have quite a number of people. On to item 6A, unfinished business, and A is the report on the City Commission action. And these are updates, recommendations that went to the City Commission, so the 2026 water rates and affordability. Baker, do you want to, or Member Wheat, because you attended the meeting as well?
I attended a December City Council workshop meeting. I can't remember the date, 12, 13, 14.
Probably December 1st.
Oh, okay. Where Director Baker gave a presentation on rates, both water and wastewater, to the council. Very well received, good conversations. I was able to get up and let them know that the UPC, again, I don't know how well informed they are about who the UPC is, but just introduction, who I'm the UPC, part of the water contract, and that we have reviewed this and in some detail, and we are recommending that we go with what was option B, sort of the middle ground, try to keep the swings out of the rates, and that was just a workshop. There was no voting that night, so Director Baker, I presume that I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. The City Commission then had the second reading of the water ordinance to set rates on the meeting on December 15th. That was approved by vote, and those rates go into effect January 1st. So we are now in the new year, so those new water rates are in effect. The water rates adjusted based on the commodity. So we talked about that at UPC. The UPC went into those very fine details about residential commodity rates, multifamily commodity rates, commercial commodity rates, and so each one of those was adjusted slightly different. There was no change to the readiness to serve rate. So you'll see in your water bill, readiness to serve rate didn't change, but your commodity did change. Those commodity changes were done in respect to that option B that we talked about. So that should result in a net increase of about 6.5% for residential customers, overall system-wide about 5%. Did also want to talk about our water affordability program. We presented the City Commission some details on that program, gave some updates. Some important takeaways of that program are that 468 families in Kalamazoo County were provided assistance over the last program year. And, families can qualify that are up to 200% of federal poverty. There's also some other ways that families can categorically qualify. So if you're already receiving some assistance program, such as supplemental nutrition assistance program, you can be enrolled automatically. So there's some easier ways to get enrolled in that water affordability program. That program also has a interior plumbing program. So if you've got interior plumbing leaks or interior plumbing deficiencies, you need some upgrades of pipes, maybe you have interior lead pipes, that program can help you. And so between those two programs, the water affordability program and the interior plumbing program, over $400,000 were provided to Kalamazoo County families for water affordability assistance. So great programs. City Commission also on December 1st approved, and it's been a long time coming, the water leak adjustment policy. So if there's something happens, frozen pipe, a broken pipe, a toilet running, something that you may not be aware of it, and you get a big water bill, we've got a policy that we can work through and make that not as much of a burden on you. There is work that the customer account holder has to do. One, you have to notify us. We don't go through these accounts hand by hand in fine detail to understand if you used water or if you had a leak. So please look at your bills. If your bill is, more than 50% of your previous average bill, there may be something going on. Give us a call. We can help you with that troubleshooting. But ultimately, if something needs to get fixed in that home, that's going to be that homeowner's responsibility. And I can go into any more detail on any of those items. Let's see if the UPC members have any questions, Peter.
I just had a question. I know at one point in time, the affordability program had the grant funding associated with it. Does that cover that 400,000, or does that 400,000 require the 1% that was set aside of rates for the purpose of affordability?
No, yeah, that's a great question, Peter. So far, the water affordability program continues to be grant funded, and it will continue to be grant funded. Our current estimates right now are through the end of 2027. So the UPC did vote at, I believe last year, maybe the year before that, to put up to 1% of a rate towards water affordability. We haven't done that yet because we're still working through the grant program.
Great.
Chair Libby?
Yes.
So just to add a little bit to that, from the voting perspective, from the political perspective on it, just one thing to remind how the table gets set for this is that there's turnover on the City Commission every 2 years, as there was this year. And you can have any number of new members on the City Commission, just happen to be 2 this time. But obviously, as the years go by here, those of us who have been around through the whole discussion about water rates and working together and setting up the UPC, there are fewer and fewer people around that are aware of or know anything about or maybe even have any interest in that history whatsoever, how we got to where we are right now. And I will suggest that without a lot of great work by Director Baker, you find yourself in a situation where a newly elected commissioner is not going to be comfortable one of their first actions right out of the gate within a month of, voting on an increase in water rates. That's just something for anyone that served on boards, you know what it's like. And people don't like to see things go up, I get that. So I think James did a great job of helping bring the new commissioners up to speed, but it's always a challenge, and I think that's something to continue to recognize as we go forward, as we're building the system and as we need to address revenue issues. Here's what I will say. I don't think, maybe even this time or in times in the future, without this robust affordability program, I don't think you're going to get the votes. That's my opinion on it. Because, there's just too much discomfort there relative to, water being a very basic need and some issues related to affordability and all that. So I think it's great, and that's something that's talked about a lot, and that's something I think we need to continue to highlight, even though we've done a good job of trying to do that. I still think it's one of those classic things where you still might ask 9 out of 10 people and they have no idea about an affordability program just because that's not something people pay attention to in their everyday lives, really. But the three components of it, the fact that you get into trouble, you can have a way to work that out, the interior plumbing, and I think adding this leak component is important also. And I mean, it's one thing, you got a big event and pipe freezes or, you got water running, in some traumatic way you notice, but I'd say there's much less focus on this idea of a running toilet. And including that, because you have a toilet run for a whole month, that's going to have a really dramatic effect on your water bill. And those are not things that many people pay a lot of attention to, I guess. So that said, having that included, but I think that's really an important component. It's a good question about that. In order to do this, I mean, I know that we're come to the end of some capital investment, and maybe things will smooth a bit here, but this is just going to be, for at least the immediate foreseeable future, this is going to be a challenge every single year when we're looking for a rate increase. So just something to keep in mind. And
To that, number one, I agree. The presentation was fantastic and teed it up for the city commission to feel comfortable. You got to spend the money, right? So, although a couple of them did say, I don't want to do this, but we have to do it. So that was good. My question is the numbers, affordability, you said 400,000?
400,000 spent and about 468 families.
Okay.
They're not one for one, but there was some pretty large costs on the plumbing. Some of the plumbing repairs averaged over $3,000 per home on some of those improvements.
So we're spending, is that $400,000? It's been, the program's been in place a couple of years, right?
Correct. I think that 400,000 number was from October 2024 through our presentation time in December 25.
Okay.
So.
And then the UPC has pledged to support rates, I can't remember, 1%? That has not been put in place, that would fund how much?
Well, it would be 1% of, I would think, of the rates that were charged in a given year, so that's.
Is there equivalence there? What I'm saying is we've seen a need for 400,000 in aid for affordability. Are we in the position where if the grant, when the grant goes away, are we in a position that we'll be able to pick up that slack?
I would think we would be pretty close at that point in time.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I think we're getting into details. We'll probably have to have somebody get a pencil out, but are we talking 1%
That would indicate of
gross
1% of
revenues
$1 million,
or above
$40
line?
million would be 400,000.
Yeah.
And I think our rates would result in that at 2027.
Correct.
But it's something, that's a great question, and I can open up an audit from recently and I say, okay, the total revenue was excellent.
No, I didn't expect. More of the point is that we want to probably pay attention to that in 2026, 27, so that there's not a discontinuous, if there's a program that we support, we should make sure that we can support it, continue to support it, and whenever the grant monies go away.
Sure, I would say participation is a point of consideration as well. 468 families, that's great, that's a lot of participation. We do know that that's not everybody. There are more families that can qualify for this program that, for whatever reason, aren't currently participating. So we've done a lot of work in marketing and advertising to get this information out there. We're gonna continue to push that marketing and advertising. But again, we encourage folks to participate. If you have challenges meeting your daily needs, or if you've got some outstanding plumbing repairs that need to happen in your home, please give a call to Community Action Agency of South Central Michigan. That number is 1-877-422-2726.
And I think that's a great point, that we should keep an eye on it and understand what we've suggested, that 1% would help subsidize or perhaps pay for. Just as a point of information, last year the revenue for the water fund was 38 million. Now, to what extent that could be used for the 1% coverage, I don't know without a little more research. But I think you're spot on. We just need to monitor and make sure when we get to that point in time. Hopefully, we can continue to obtain the grant fundings, but if not, we need to be aware of what are the implications. Maybe the program has to shrink or it has the ability to be more robust.
Any other questions?
Well, just my recollection was that the 1% as a recommendation came after we did some research of what other systems are doing. So it's not, I don't think it was a magic number. It was just
Right.
that was, it seemed like that's what other utility systems had in place that had their own programs in place, so.
James, is this the affordability? Do you report on that annually or?
We do provide an annual presentation on that to City Commission.
And I think, Libby, you had seen that or?
I think, well, Tom was present
Okay.
at the meeting and said it was very good. And we have it in our periodic checklist, which we're gonna get
Okay,
to later,
okay.
to have an annual summary provided to the EPC.
Yeah, during James's presentation, we invite somebody from the Community Action Agency, is that right? To speak to the affordability program. So one last question, what program, where's that grant coming from?
That grant came from State of Michigan, from Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And that was a kind of program applicant, had to be Community Action Agency, so the city couldn't be an applicant, but we assisted Community Action Agency in the grant application.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the capital improvement plan, and we keep this on unfinished business for updates. And looking for the status of projects, maybe the top 10 or something, the major things going on.
Sure, I can hit some of the highlights. Some of our big projects are the station consolidation, Station 5 and Station 14. That project work continues. I just drove by there this morning. They're out there digging and installing water main and working on foundations, that sort of thing. So there's a whole lot of work going on, even through the winter on that project. That's a big project. Lead continues, even though we're kind of wrapping up one year, but we're going into the next. We're right now on Michigan Avenue in downtown Kalamazoo doing some lead service lines. We're also in the Edison neighborhood continuing our work there. We did over 1,000 lead service lines in 2025. That's our most ever. I don't have the exact number, but I know Anna's here. I don't know if Anna knows.
We don't have the 2025 number.
Don't have the 2025 total, but I know we're already over 1,000. So that's already the most we've ever done. So that's great progress on that. That work continues. You've got a lot of water main projects that are going in the ground. We've also got work happening in the stations. We call that our station corrosion control program to transfer to optimize corrosion control. So we're getting ready, probably February, mid-February, we're gonna start transitioning over on that with the low district going first. So there, will be some changes to water quality as we're switching things around. So we'll probably do a media release to let folks know that some changes might occur. So we're going to be increasing the amount of orthophosphate. There's gonna be an immediate change in the amount of polyphosphate, but over time, that's gonna balance back out again. So there could be some visual changes in the clarity of it as we work to increase the level of orthophosphate in the system. This is all done to put more coating on pipe walls that further protect against lead. Now, our lead numbers have been going down. A lot of that is in part to removing lead service lines. But even when we get every lead service line removed, there's still homes that have lead interior plumbing. There's still lead fixtures. So if your fixture, like your faucet, kitchen sink, for example, if that wasn't installed after 2014, it's not lead-free. It could have some amount of lead in it. So as a water system, we're going to continually try to optimize and provide additional coating and protection so that families are continue to be protected against lead.
So this is an aesthetic change that people will see?
This would be an aesthetic change. It is probably just momentarily because we're changing things around, so there could be some disruption. If there is, we track, respond to, and report every water quality complaint that folks may have, and so we're interested in that. That's something that when I bring the annual report out, I'll be reporting on that as well.
So I'm more familiar with the disruptions that trigger some rust. And I know with those, the messaging was for customers to call the city.
Correct.
So that's the same message with this, and you're saying there could be some difference in color?
There could, yeah.
But are you saying also perhaps with rust, with changing things? or-
There could be some change in more rust visuals. You could see some color change, so they could appear more cloudy or rusty or yellow in the interim, and then over time, it's gonna go back kind of to where it was. So we're gonna be making changes in the amount of phosphates we're adding, and so there is gonna be just a bit of a change as we go through that. So we're not anticipating, it's not intentional that we're gonna do that, it's one of those things that may happen. And so if it does, we can get out, we can flush, we can adjust things, and make sure we're responding to it. And we'll probably have some media release information going out mid to late February to make sure folks are prepared for that.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. I was traveling this week up North Burdick, the old Eden plant. The elevator storage tank, I know it's township. Is that hydraulically connected to the city system?
I don't believe so. I believe that's completely isolated.
Okay.
And we've had other facilities that have elevated storage tanks for fire suppression, and those are completely separated, like the old General Motors
Yeah.
was another one where they're completely separated from the system.
Just on lead replacement, I think it's just worth noting what an amazing achievement this continues to be. I mean, not under a court order, not anything like that. This is just proactive work. A lot of it has been grant funded through the state of Michigan, low interest loans, grants, and things like that. So just the fact that the system's been able to proactively go out there, do this work, try to get as much of it funded through grants from outside sources, and get it done ahead of any mandated schedules that the EPA or the state of Michigan may put on the system has, I think, just been a real testament and is just great news. I know there's more to do. And I know we talk a lot about kind of some of the older neighborhoods in the city of Kalamazoo, but I can remember some of the conversations about within Kalamazoo Township. So there are places that wherever it's found, that's where the crews are going to get it removed. So it's a really good indication of just getting the work done that needs to be done and trying to find other ways to help pay for that. So thanks.
Thank you. How long has UPC been in existence? Obviously, I came on in last year.
I want to say 3 years, well, since 21, is that 4 years?
21.
4 years.
I think it's a great thing. That's the reason I asked that question, because in the city, when I worked 80s, 90s, I retired 2010. But much of the 80s and 90s, I can remember this discussion here didn't happen around the table for the groups. I remember sitting in with Bart Gethman on Black and Beach, when you were talking about rates and everything, how the city was funding things, and then how the rates paired outside the city, inside the city, the different things, because we had matured to this level that the people at the table are talking to each other, the different groups and everything, and it's good to see. It's good to see, and it's a great thing. I think that we got here, and that the users of the systems have a voice into the system, but also the responsibility that the different individuals have, the entities. I think it's a great thing. I just want to say that, because that was something for a long time. I remember sitting down with Jerry Barnett Moore, Bart Gethman, and the different public service directors talking about funding for each year and how the rates were being done out of borrowing and those things. And it makes so much more sense that the participants of it, the users of the system, and have voices, but also an investment into the system. I think that's a great thing.
Thank you very much, Will.
Yeah.
That was a lot of work.
Yes.
To get into this.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the new business, item 7A, 2026 meeting dates. And the proposed dates are listed on the agenda, actually. It's a continuation of the second Thursday of the month at 8:30 a.m. here at Oshimo Township. So,
Do we need to ask Ashtamo again, whether that's okay, or?
It's already on the calendar.
I know we did
Thank you.
last year, I think.
See your list there, please.
yes. We should pass it back there when you're done too.
Here, Libby, I move approval of our meeting schedule for 2026.
Support?
There's a motion by Member Anderson and a second by Peter Hafner. Member Hafner to approve the meeting dates for the second Thursday, 8:30 in Oshimo Township for the Utility Policy Committee. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Yes.
So administratively, are somebody gonna send that out for the group as a automatic
Calendar thing.
calendar thing?
I think,
Or is it already set up?
It is.
It does.
It's already set, okay, through 2026?
I'm checking all of the dates. I'm up to
Okay.
August. So far it's there.
Good, thank you.
good administrative point.
That just
Thank
makes
you.
it so much easier to hit accept and
It does. Thank you.
The 12/31/2025 quarterly financial report is not ready for today. You know, we had the holidays and people on vacation, so we will bring this back in February. Item C is the utility financial policy amendment, and Peter, I appreciate you reaching out on this item and providing information. We had some discussion when we were working on recommending the rates, that there was a little bit of a disconnect between what is in the policy and how
The rates are being calculated.
being calculated. So we need, need to bring it to this group to discuss whether to align those two and the process to do that. And so,
Absolutely. So I provided some information in the packet, and at the top of it, it says Kalamazoo Water Policy, Utility Financial Policy. And so I wanted to walk you through just components of that. So at the top, that heading would be blue. And again, that would say Water System Utility Financial Policy. Couple more pages. Okay, so here is the policy that I pulled this off the city's website, and this is what was approved by the city and proposed by the UPC. And last year, when we had the rate calculation performed, I noted that there was a slight disconnect between our policy and what was being utilized to calculate water rates. I wanted to just bring this, I thought January was a good point in time for us to just touch base on this. I'll make everybody aware of what that disconnect is, and then we can consider whether we want to modify our policy to be consistent with what the rate calculator is doing, or, mandate the rates be calculated in conformance with what the policy is, and that goes through a process, and ultimately would be the city commission that would need to approve the policy change. And so there are various reserves that we set up and discussed in quite a bit of detail, and Steve Vincenzi was involved in a small group that helped work through this, and we brought it back to the group, and ultimately the city approved it. I'd just point your attention to the third item. So the third item here is the operation and maintenance fund, or a reserve of dollars that are available to operate the system should there be a shortage or if there's an excess there that would result in the ability to reduce rates. And I just wanted to point out the first sentence following the third item, it says maintain a balance of non-bonded cash and investments equal to 240 days of annual
270
needs.
days.
So if you turn to the next page, there's some of the schedules included with the policy. You turn to the third page, it says Appendix A. You turn to the fourth page, and there is a calculation of what is referred to by Stantec as the revenue fund. That's on the right top of the page, following Schedule 2. I'm going to jump to the next page where there are some graphs. In the top left graph, it says operating fund, and you can see for 2024, it's approximately $34 million. Do you see that? So let's go back to page 9 and take a look at the bottom of page 9 and how many dollars are in the reserve. $34 million. This is just fine. What I wanted to point out is on that Schedule 2, which is this page where the calculation is made.
and this is Schedule 2 from the rate making,
This is from the rate calculation, both pages are.
okay.
So the first documents we looked at are the policy, and this is the rate calculation. I just wanted to point out, when you take a look at the calculation of this referred to as revenue fund, maybe it should be called operating fund, it is on the next page. Or maybe it should be called the operating reserve or whatever, but regardless, the calculation here of $34 million worth of that reserve is not cash and investments. It's cash and investments at the top of the page. And then it has customers receivable, It shows due from other governments, prepaid items, inventory, and then it backs out the accounts payable, accrued payables, due to other governments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, coming down to $34 million. The fact that they went through this calculation, I think actually is good. It could be tweaked in my modest opinion. But I would prefer that the policy would be not just cash and investments, and I will point out why. So if we go to look at this calculation, you'll see that we're using cash and investments and balances due from our customers, and then due from other governments. There was a substantial amount of grant funding of the system capital components, such as lead line replacement and other projects, that if that was not included in the calculation, the rates would have had to go up more than they were approved to go up. And so I think our policy of saying we need a cash and investment reserve maybe should be broadened to say the reserve should be calculated perhaps current assets less current liabilities, but I think we should refine it even more. And so, you know, if it wasn't a year with all these federal grants, maybe we could have got away with using just cash and investments. But when you have paid for projects and you haven't received the grant funding yet, that would really kind of do this to our rates. It would require it to fluctuate up and down. And so I think our policy should be broadened just for operation and maintenance fund in our policy on the first page, so that it is more aligned with what's going on in the rate calculation. And not just more aligned, basically, it should be the same, right? And I just wanted to bring that concept to you. Whether we do it or not is totally up to this group and then to provide it to the city. But I just thought, hey, there's a disconnect. We got a policy, then it doesn't get followed in the rates. And I'm kind of happy it didn't, because our cash and investments was $31.5 million, and we needed 34, and our rates would have had to go up. And just using cash and investments in a year when we have substantial grant funding, it's just something we didn't consider when that policy was approved. And so I just wanted to bring to the attention of the UPC, hey, there's this disconnect. Do we want to take some action? Do we want to leave it and assess it next year? It's really up to this group if we want to provide a proposal to the city to modify that policy to align what's occurring in the rate calculation versus what the policy says. And I hope, I'm happy to answer questions, and I hope I didn't confuse you, but I wanted you to kind of walk through it step by step.
Yes.
I think that's a good point, and I think you're recognizing the reality of a situation rather than sort of just some broad overview language. I'm not quite sure how detailed you get in the policy to try to fully represent that. I mean, you can go through line by line and say, well,
Right.
should, you know,
And things will pop on and things will pop off, so you're dead on
yeah. So I'm not sure exactly,
how we
because
could
you're trying
word
to
it.
stay, I think that the intent was to stay a little generic here, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I guess the devil's in the details, so to speak, and how you frame it, but I don't think it's, I think it's a good idea. I don't think it'd be a particular problem, you know, taking a policy change to the city commission. It's relative to clarifying language, I guess.
Right, and what I could do, but I would ask you to say do it, is I could put together kind of as generic as possible, but yet to be consistent with what was used,
Yeah.
or could be used, should be used going forward, and perhaps share that with City Finance Director, Mr. Vincenzi, and then bring it back to this group, or we could proceed however you'd like, so.
I think that makes total sense. And I appreciate the explanation, it's so clear. And I think we should align policy with how we're doing it.
As generically as possible.
Yes.
And I don't know, it seemed like Stan Tech should be at the table as part of this discussion, because they're the ones doing the rate calculations, they're the ones preparing these tables, and I don't know, maybe that's just the utility way of calculating, and in their mind, they might say that, that's completely within the confines of your policy, and this is the way the accounting works. I don't know. It seems like it would be helpful to have Stan Tech, the city's CFO at the table to see if we need to make a tweak, which, if we do, we do. Or is this just kind of the typical accounting, and this is the way utilities work?
I see Steve is on the line and I'm not sure there's on the Zoom component, but I would suggest, as long as this group's okay with it, is I've just asked James to maybe contact Steve and see if he could set up just a call with Stan Tech briefly, so we could just discuss the issue, and then I could come back to the next time and provide, any insight, and they say, yeah, that makes sense, and then we could proceed from there without taking action before we come back again. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I agree. I think setting up a call, with Mr. Vicenzi and Stan Tech and kind of going through their tables and
Yeah.
seeing if we can create some alignment and some language recommendations for the policy, and then we could bring that back to the UPC with, a bit of a more formal recommendation.
Yeah, of how to proceed regardless, so we don't spend time putting a policy in place. But I think it's a great idea to have Stan Tech in the mix, and I would ask if this group is okay with it, that James ask Mr. Vicenzi to set that up, or however your hierarchy works.
Question for the city, and I agree that's the proper course of action, but then depending on what the report back is, how much work administratively is it to change that policy? Is that a heavy lift, or is that a memo and on a consent agenda type of thing?
I'd have to defer to Mr. Vicenzi. The utility financial policy is really under the authority of the CFO, so.
Okay.
And we can bring that back next
Have
time.
that, if we can have that call, that meeting, it'd be good to know that.
Yeah, is it worth our effort, or?
Exactly.
Do we want to vote to authorize this? Since we kind of a subcommittee person on this, Steve, Peter, and Stan Tech?
We could take formal action, or it kind of feels like it's a semi-informal thing anyway.
So a meeting and bring back information.
Yes.
Yep.
Then we have the water checklist, water contract checklist annual review, which we typically do at our first meeting of the year.
So I put together a summary of the contract several years ago, and historically, we've taken a walk through this document briefly at our January meeting. So at the top of the page, it says summary of select UPC contract requirements, and it has my initials, and I did this in 2024. It should be following the document that we just discussed within the packet. This one right here. Probably 3 more or 4 more.
Near the back of the stack.
Keep going, and it'll be like a separate
Separate.
statement. I just want to make sure that Will's online with us, just because this would be his first time through it as well. Keep going. Keep going. That's it. So what I historically have done is just try to highlight the big items. So under the recitals, the first item is F, and the city and the township desire to establish a representative utility policy committee with direct input regarding water finances, rate making, operations, maintenance, repair, replacement of the public water supply system. I just point that out, and that's really the whole purpose of this meeting occurring. And then I'm gonna skip down to where it says creation of the committee. And I wanna point out under 3.1, it's always all members and alternate members of the UPC have a duty to act in the best interest of the public water supply system. And then I would point out under 3.6A, we have to meet quarterly. We have been meeting every month, and then we occasionally are saying there's not enough on the agenda. We're still on track for quarterly, so let's cancel this meeting or that meeting. And we need to meet to discuss, review, confer regarding capital improvements. Thanks for the update. Operations, maintenance, repair, water service, financial policy, which would include the utility financial policy we just discussed, water rates. And then yearly, at the very bottom of that section, we can request all of the books and records of the city should we want to delve into more detail that we don't feel as though we're receiving. And then under B, we can retain a consultant or consultants to take a look at data if we want to go into more detail. So consultants in excess of the rate consultant. And then on the next page, we have a process for approval of the water rates, and at the very top, yearly, we determine whether it's necessary to have a water rate consultant, and I would just ask for Mr. Baker to concur that he thinks that that's necessary in the 2026 year to have a water rate consultant. And my perspective is it's just very helpful for the city when they're in the phases of construction and changes in operations that we have that outside party looking at what do we need to be charging to cover the costs of the system. And I think James' head shake is yes.
Yes.
And then we also are, under the second bullet on the second page, it says yearly, where we're gonna use a rate consultant, we should review and discuss proposed water rates and the factors and components set forth in the contract for setting rates. And historically, this group has set one or more individuals, given them the responsibility of kind of just working with the rate consultants and understanding the process and bringing back kind of here's where things landed. Under section D, we get to identify who the rate consultant is. We do that for a 2-year period, so I think we're good through this year, and then we would take a look at that issue again. And we also, as needed, if you take a look through here, we can take a look at the services that are provided, the billing process, and so this UPC has broad authority to kind of oversee the water process, at least just from a review and consideration perspective. We haven't delved into the billing process or things of that nature, but that's available to this group within the contract, I would point out. Under section E, our input would be considered by the city commission in the long-term policies, plans, goals of the water system. And so those policies would include the utility financial policy, early retirement of debt, billing collection methods, et cetera, et cetera. And under F, the first bullet, as needed, may review the services and costs of services. When we do that in a broad perspective of looking at quarterly financial reports, looking at the annual audit, And if you turn to the last page, there is a summary of things that we've kind of put on an agenda to address some of our requirements of this group. Responsibilities are trying to be addressed by some of the things on the very last page, which we should take a look through and say, hey, did we need to add something, or can we pull something off? And I would ask Libby if you want to walk through that component, which
Yes.
I think you put together last year, and
This group, I adopted this periodic review schedule, and it came out of, again, the checklist of what they were doing it, and it's helpful, just like that in the agenda, to reference this to see what would be coming up that particular month. We're looking at the checklist, again, we talked about, we're doing that in January each year. The affordability, we're looking at annually, and we had that summary today. Consultant billing, we also did reach consensus to look at those summaries quarterly. And that's another one we could bring in February for the fourth quarter of 2025. The financial reports we're doing quarterly. The meeting schedule, we look at in January, we did that already today. Rate consultant appointment is every 2 years. I have it down for April 2026, but I think, I'm not sure if that's correct.
yes, I think you are correct. That's something maybe James could take a look at and come back and identify what they're approved through, because I think our last approval of the rate consultant, initially it was 1 year, and then we said we're gonna do them another year, right? And so we might be up, I don't know, but we should check that out.
I think the agreement only allows for 2 years.
Right.
And we didn't have the
It mandates.
the cost, we didn't have the cost for the second year, so we needed that, but I think we've received it.
And maybe that was for 26, if it was, that's just what we need to know, that we'll need to look at it for 27. I
Okay,
just
yeah,
can't recall, I know we did initial approval of 1 year and then, so we might be fine.
I think part of it too was, this system had used a rate consultant for decades. And with the new UPC, we switched to a new rate consultant. And I think there was kind of a feeling of, let's see how this new rate consultant does. We've never worked with them before. I think that's why we went with the 1 year initially, to see how things would shake out. But yeah, time's going by fast. We're into a couple years on it already.
So maybe, James, you could just come back and say, we're approved through 27 or whatever. I just
Sure.
can't recall.
and I'll look to the commission, the expenditure is a commission item because of the amount. And that might have only gone a year, and the UPC approval might have gone, 2 years or something. So I'll check on that aspect of it as well.
And then we have annually looking at the Appendix D, the fees, reviewing those, I have that,
Which is the rate, actually, right?
yes, in May. And then the audit, reviewing it in July annually. And then the rates development review annually, we have July to October. We ask for 2 months, the first month to talk about the detail of how the rate was set that year, and then action the following month, at least a minimum of two meetings on that.
And I think we need to add a component to this listing of approval of the rates for the professionals, as that's in the contract. And we're gonna look at that today, I believe, Libby. But I don't know if we wanna add it to this list, so we just don't forget, okay?
No, that's good.
Each January, we could put down, we need to review, approve, or not approve of the rates of the professionals on the UPC.
Yeah, that's in our bylaws.
Okay,
Go through the bylaws too to see if there's anything in there that,
yeah.
that's one that was in the bylaws that was overlooked.
So I wonder if there's more that should be added or subtracted, and then should we approve it again? Since we approved this initially, right?
One question, I've kept the capital improvement plan on every meeting, and perhaps that should be a quarterly or as needed, and does it make sense to, look at that and as more of an executive summary or something of what's going on in this group?
I would, request, Mr. Wheat provide his 2 cents on the monitoring of the capital side, just because he's an engineer, he's familiar with this versus I'm an accountant and what have you. But maybe some type of here's the big project, the top 10 or whatever, periodically. You know, what are your thoughts? I mean, I kind of rely on you to understand what they're doing and whether there's some, you know, hey, why do you do this or whatever.
I agree. When we get the capital improvement plan from James, it's the spreadsheet, 100 line items.
That's part of the budget
As part of that's part of the rate part
and the budget.
and the budget.
Yep.
And we're getting that, we're looking at that. We don't approve it, I don't think, but we look at it and it's like in the fall, right?
It would be before September, usually in the July, August timeframe. You know, if we've got to make any changes to that, or if there's any projects that the UPC would really like to see, you know, pushed forward or moved around or something like that, we'd want to do that before we go into that rate.
Yeah. So I'm not. So that brings up a different issue. From reporting, I'm happy to do that and look at it, and I did that last year, but just did it verbally. You had mentioned sort of the top 10. I wonder if when that gets presented to the UPC, rather than just the big list and me saying everything looks great, top 10, what are the drivers? Because really, operations and your capital drive the rates.
Correct.
So what are the drivers of the rates from the capital side? Because there are a lot of those lines that are insignificant, you know, but a lot of insignificance turned up, you know, start spending 100,000 here, 100,000 there. But maybe the top 10, and you sort of just did that for us this morning. That would be, I think, helpful for the group. And I would still go through and look line by line and just, and then help UPC, guide the UPC. I don't want to second guess the system and what you guys are looking at, but if there is some project we decide we need to pull forward or push back, you know, that's something I could be looking for. You know, that's probably going to be a situation where, you know, some other project is coming along that maybe you're not aware of, you know, that kind of thing. Aligning projects more than not doing it this year and doing it next year. That'd be the only reason to move something around. So that's my only suggestion. I'll continue looking at that and reports to the UPC, but sort of an executive summary when you provide that to us in August.
Obviously, it'd probably be a good opportunity.
Yeah.
I think, John, what you're really describing is what we're doing in the real world. Is there's an annual development of the CIP, right? And so as you described, that happens around budget time, but a little bit before actually, so those projects can inform the budget. And then there's the monthly or quarterly updates to the UPC on the CIP plan and its progression. So I would think that we still need to see the full CIP as part of the budget process, but to your point, highlighting those projects that are the big ones, I mean, I think we should still keep it on the agenda for each meeting.
Okay.
So I don't know, it's one of those topics that is, it has an annual, just like the budget, it has an annual process, but then there's, there's the ongoing, how are we standing, as an update.
So the benefit of August deep dive, if you will, into CIP is that that could potentially time us well to have the state's IUP and intended use plan, even if it's just a draft, and that kind of lets us know where we are on big state grants.
So to add to the schedule would be the capital improvement, monthly review, when we're meeting monthly, or I don't know how you say each meeting review, of the highlights of the capital improvement plan, and then more of a deep dive when it comes out. And we can address that each year and say, would you please take a look at this for us, Tom? As you have a lot more knowledge of that arena.
A review and an executive summary of the plan in August.
And retain the capital improvement review at each meeting. That's what Jeff was saying.
Just like what we just did today.
So just clarifying what Tom is doing in August and what the city's doing. The executive summary is the city, the top 10 drivers, or that, and then you're doing a review of the overall
I'll
capital?
review all the line items. James can put together a one-pager to say, here are the big ones. It just, these are this is where we're at on the big ones this year, and this is what we're looking at next year.
James, when that's not this issue, but James, when will that consolidation be completed?
So that should go online between 2029 and 2030. I don't know, Anna, do we have any clear sightlines on that? 2029?
Okay, so long way out, big project.
That's a lot going into that.
Yeah, okay.
So good discussion on the periodic review schedule, and I'm looking for a motion to approve the schedule with the addition of the annual approval of the professional hourly reimbursement for the bylaws and adding the capital improvement plan review, a monthly summary, and then annually for the top 10 executive summary and the overall capital plan review by engineering. Is that what?
It's a long motion.
And you'll summarize that on this schedule.
Yes, I mean, that's adding 2 or 3 lines to the schedule.
I
And
would
I
make,
could bring it back if you want next time. Or we could just make the motion.
I would make a motion that we approve the periodic review schedule as modified to include the review of professionals on the UPC and the capital improvement program.
No, support.
Motion by member Hafner, second by member Wheat to approve the periodic review schedule as modified with the professional consultants rates and the capital improvement review. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. So, following up on those responsibilities, we have the Item E, the UPC Professional Member Services 2026 hourly rate approval. And there were hard copies handed out today of the proposal to the City of Kalamazoo. And just in a nutshell, we have the hourly rates of the Hafner Group at $195, Main Meridian $195, and Pine Newhoff $210. So those are the amounts that are on the table.
I have one question, Chair Libby, and I can't remember where this ties back to policy where we're gonna have an automatic cap on this. I think it was 25
Yeah.
in our policy. I noticed that one of the proposals, the cap is significantly lower than that 25. I don't know if that matters. It's the Main and Meridian proposal that is capped at 10 on an annual basis rather than 25 as the other two are. I don't know if that's,
I'm okay with leaving it the way it is right now
Okay.
for the water UPC.
And then the reason that my group is saying 25 was that's the policy of the city, to
Right.
just say, you know, we won't go over that because we know that requires other actions by the commission.
But the numbers we've been looking at have been well below to your point, yeah.
I move approval then of the three professional member service agreements and associated rates for Hafner Group, Main and Meridian, and Prine and Newhoff.
I'll support.
There's a motion by Mayor Anderson and a second by Member Crum to approve the rates as discussed. Any further discussion? And I do believe members still approve this, even though it's.
That's
I
a very
would
good question.
suggest
Maybe we
we could
should do
just
them all together
abstain.
then.
There's 4 other people to prove it.
There are 4 others that could, yeah.
Right, so I would
Majority.
suggest me just abstain and then you approve it.
Sure.
Yeah, I was gonna abstain from my part.
So maybe we should do the 3 separate.
We could either do it separate, or we could do it as one, and we have 3 abstentions.
Okay.
And 4 favorable.
If we're gonna be quick,
And then if we have
Yeah.
to, we'll do it individually.
Because of us. Okay, great, fabulous, okay.
Can I just add, as long as the minutes reflect that there's no disagreement here, it's just we're abstaining for those purposes.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Then we have the professional service invoice approvals received by the city. There was one added today that they received,
Those 2 have ones.
yes, and one of those is in the hard copy.
Okay, all right, we'll start with 26, right, I guess. I move approval of payment for the Main and Meridian LLC invoice number 00115, amount of $303.
I'll support.
Motion by Member Anderson, second by Member Crum to approve the Main Meridian invoice as described. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Those abstaining?
Abstain.
Thank you.
I move approval of
Motion
the
carries.
Prine Newhoff.
Motion carries 6-0
There we go.
and 1.
Prine Newhoff invoice number 93001, the amount of $311.40. I move approval of payment. Support.
Motion by Member Anderson, support by Member Rowland to approve the time and enough invoice as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
Motion carries 6-0 and 1 abstention.
I move approval of 2 Hefner Group LLC invoices, approval of payment. One of the number 1087 in the amount of $879.70, and the other one 1095 in the amount of $149.
I'll support.
Can I just say ditto? Motion made by Member Anderson, seconded by Member Crum to approve the 2 Hafner Group invoices as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Motion carries 6-0 with 1 abstention. Okay, thank you. Any, on to the committee member, alternate attendee, guest comments. Item 8, anyone, we'll start with the audience.
Sure, I again like to compliment members of the UPC, doing an excellent job, continue to do that, and I do very much believe you are all serving in the interest of the public water system. Thank you. And as always, James Baker for all the assistance that he brings and the information. It's excellent. And then, Peter, I appreciate the summary very much of the roles and authority of the UPC. I think that's a very valuable tool. And I'll also footnote that I too had noticed the inconsistencies of the reporting. It didn't bother me because I realized the city had their accounting system that did things certain ways, and our policies, as the mayor indicated, are more generic. My only footnote to that is, I noticed it, I was unconcerned, but one of the things that this committee is so important in doing is collecting and conveying information to the public. And when we have one document that says this, you're going to look for those names of the various funds being also incorporated in the detailed information. And because of those inconsistencies, it's not there. As I say, I didn't worry about it. But I think, you know, moving forward, tweaking, you'll probably have to get ES&A if they're still your accounting software to kind of tweak their program. So it might not be exactly trivial to get there, but I think it's a goal to put together and to move in that direction. But otherwise, again, appreciate everybody's work here, especially the city. I very much appreciate the transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, anything?
Just to echo what one of your members said at the table earlier today, I've been with this group now for 25 plus years, and it is really, truly a blessing to see the people sitting around the table working the way we are, and I'm glad you noticed that. It's really, really awesome, and we've come a long way, and I certainly hope it gets nothing but better. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna, anything? Thank you. Bear?
Nothing to add.
Jerry?
Yeah, I just had a couple comments on the affordability of the program and that. Once the state's grants is off and you're doing your own and that, I wondered, is there ever going to be just a minimum charge or something to somebody? Like cover $20, say the bill's $146 and they're required to pay $20, they're going to get $120 back. That they have some interest still in it. As the mayor said, if they're paying the total bill, are they going to worry about the toilet running all the time or not, you know? And if they pay $20, whether they pay for the billing and the paperwork and the mailing, at least that part of it, the administrative part, but they have some interest in it, that they're watching their usage and trying to be the best steward as well. Also, I wonder about the property tax. We have hardship exemptions and they're done by the year. People's financial things change. He might have been out of a job for 2 years and they got a job how often will the affordability, will you look to reevaluate where they're at, how they're, you're not gonna do it by quarterly, it'd be way too much work. Is it gonna be by the year that you would look at them to say, okay, this is your rate now, and you've got ability now to contribute as everybody else is contributing in it, so. Just some thoughts that as you were going through it, so.
Thank you. Sherry?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Great conversation, always illuminating, and Mayor, I appreciate turnover can cause disruption in progress when it comes to elected officials. I think what I have maybe is a couple more questions, and then I'll just, if somebody either can get with me or, during your comments. I'm always concerned that we're not, from the township local level in the system, highlighting the water affordability program. And so I'd be interested at some point of, is there some distribution among the system where we see more users taking advantage of that program than others, just so that we make sure from our end that we are informing residents that that water affordability is out there for them too. Appreciate the work on the water leakage policy. I'm wondering, as a community with a lot of rental units, is that available to commercial property owners as well? So, if you've got a large multifamily unit and somebody's toilet's running, but the water is included in the rent, or I just am wondering if there's how that would work on the commercial side. And then my last question, and it's come up with regard to the concern around the access to water, should there be large-scale fires related to battery energy storage systems, I know water is supposed to be going out into Van Buren County as related to the Kale Avenue stuff. I'm wondering, is there a place where I could get an update on that expansion project? And will the city be the installing that? It just occurs to me that I haven't heard anything about the next steps in the progress. So those are my questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Emily, anything? Anyone online? Not seeing any requests to speak online. I'll go around the table here.
Nothing.
Just had a billing update that we're working through. We've got about 1,500 accounts in Richland Township that we're updating with smart meters. Some of that work also involves changing zones. Zones are like when we do reads. Going back several years, we used to do our reads in cooperation with Consumers Energy. We've changed programs, and we're doing now all of our own reads and all of our smart meter reads. So we're consolidating and changing read zones around. There were some accounts that were charged the wrong amount for the readiness to serve. So they went either like a long quarter or a short quarter, and that readiness to serve wasn't properly appropriated. We're going through manually on these accounts to see if that did occur. We are correcting them if that did happen. We're not seeing any uniform, like they all were improperly charged, they all will not. It's just kind of a intermittent thing. We're gonna reach out to their software provider to see if we can run a script that would just go through all those accounts and try to clean that up. So we are getting some calls from some folks in Richland Township. We are working through, we have adjusted a number of those. So if there's, if you're still outstanding, if that still applies to you, you think, we're still working on that. So I just want to provide that message to everybody. And I'll get with you, Sherry, here after the meeting. I think I've got answers for everything you said. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
Nope.
Anything?
Anything else?
I have nothing other than thank you, everyone, for serving and for attending virtually and online. Good discussions. And we adjourn. Next meeting is February 12th.
Hey, that's my birthday.